how to exist and flourish in a sense. And if we're finally coming to the point where we've got 99% of Americans basically saying that this is no longer acceptable, we have lost our vote, we have lost our voice, and we want it back. Is that
We've lost our vote, we have lost our voice. Those elements are absolutely true, but I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. It's one thing to assume, and this is a bit of a radical statement, it's one thing to assume that the people of the world in harmony will make the right decision. It's another thing to realize that there is a true benchmark that's known as our reality, that there's a scientific benchmark, if you will, there's a causality. It doesn't take the opinions of the mass consensus to realize the most efficient mean to feed everybody on the planet.
Right.
That's a completely technical orientation. I point that out just to plant that seed, because sometimes I get this rhetoric where people say, well, we want democracy. No, we want rationality.
Right.
We want people to understand the world they live in and to be able to engage it accurately, as accurately as possible.
It doesn't really matter what you call it if you have that, right? You call it anything.
Exactly. We want to do things right, not based on the will of the people.
Right.
We hope that the will of the people is correctly in line.
Right.
But as Thomas Jefferson pointed out, democracy is 51% of the population taking away the rights of the other 49%. So it has to go beyond that. So I just throw that out there. But I still believe, obviously, that people this is what the group mind is. This is how education works. I don't come up with anything, you don't come up with anything.
Right.
It's the sharing of information, the constant development of logic and reasoning amongst all of our educational structures that we've all inherited that enables us to grow as one perception, if you will.
Sure.
And that's critically important for me to realize as well.
So in your most recent addendum, you talk about robotization of the working force, that we as humans are in a sense no longer needed to fabricate and produce the goods that we actually consume in a major way. As that idea builds, how are we going to keep people employed, happy, and healthy? What replaces the jobs that they have now?
This goes back to the point of the declarations we spoke of. It goes back even deeper to the values inherent in this system, to the ideas that we're going to get permanence. It goes back to the traditional mindset versus the emergent. To answer your question very simply, there's no way you're going to keep everybody employed. There's no way, and it's idiotic for us to anyway.
Right.
Mechanization provides more efficiency, more abundance. It's extremely unintelligent for us not to apply mechanization. It's more safety.
Right.
We can create automated systems, as I mentioned earlier, that can produce all the food organic.
Right.
With maybe a few supervisors.
I'll show you the system I've designed.
And why aren't we doing that? Because the system is so archaic, we have to assume that everyone must. It's in the Bible too. We've earned their living by the sweat of their brow.
Right.
That's how old these values are.
Right.
That's not going to be the case in the future.
Right.
We've outdone ourselves to our own advantage, but we're ruling ourselves out as far as labor for income. And that's where a massive transition has to occur. What you just pointed out is really almost the nail in the coffin of this system at its fundamental. We have the ability to create abundance, and we're stopping that because of our old necessity to maintain labor for income. So what do? How do we make a new system that isn't based on labor for income? And you can see how the minds will roll with such an amazing prospect and an amazing change in our values as far as the ethic. People are given the right to life in the system. You deserve your right to live. That's an obsolete notion.
So you think some of these ideas and concepts that you're talking about could indeed spring out of the movement that we're witnessing here today?
I see them as inevitable. I think eventually mechanization and technological unemployment, it's not going to stop. That's why we're really in the position we are now.
Right.
That's really the cause.
Right.
And people will argue that. A lot of economists will say, well, technology makes more unemployment, blah, blah, blah. That's actually a very convoluted logic if you really pull back and think about it. So we're supposed to say, let's all go to Facebook and use Facebook money, and then we'll just use Facebook money, and that will be the new currency for the entire world society. I've actually had people say things like that, as though, we'll just have to make some other new level of occupation. And we can all just be actors and educators, as though that's really what we should be doing. As insane as that sounds, people believe that. So that's going to push itself one way or another. It will be realized that in the course of the past 5 years, it's actually made its way. You see a lot of articles about technological unemployment now that you would never have seen 5 years ago.
So that's a scary concept to a lot of people. When you hear about this, if you're just sitting here and you're talking about technological unemployment, what does that mean to the average person hearing that to them in the future? What does it mean for their family and their children? And is there something to look forward to in that, or what do they think?
Well, I mean, I think they should look forward to it, but they should also recognize the problem of the system we're in now and how paralyzed it's become because of this technological scientific phenomenon clashing with the traditional non-emergent phenomenon. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's emergent versus traditional. And that's been what pushes all change since we've been in recorded history. Science technology is what has created every form of major social change ever. And this is just another example of that. In our social system that seems permanent to us for the past thousands of years, it's going to be pushed aside as well, one way or another. So people should look at it and say, wow, I can actually be free. Let's think about that for a moment. Actually, I can actually get the sustenance of life, not have to slave over a job. Oh, by the way, it doesn't do anything, like Wall Street advertising.
Right.
You know, doing things that do nothing.
Right.
Imagine using the mind when people have the time to do so. Imagine the values that they'll have when they can actually volunteer their time to do something constructive, which I think everybody wants to do.
Which is what's happening here right now. Basically, we're having people, including myself, that for the very first time in our lives feel like we're actually doing something that's relevant and that's productive, and hopefully start to resolve some of these issues.
You're not being paid to do this.
Not at all.
No one is.
No one
And
is.
this is the great flaw of human conduct. Is that the market system is based on the idea that we're socially Darwinistic, that survival of the fittest, that no one can work together, it's competitive.
Right.
That's the blind assumption that's perpetuated this whole kind of thing. It's why we accept 1 billion people starving, at least a lot of people do. It's why you accept the homeless person who walks past on the street. You assume that's just the way it is. It's not. It's the way the system is manifesting itself.
So the quicker that we can let people know these issues, the quicker that this so-called revolution of thought and change, I think, will take place. So
absolutely, that's really where the revolution is. Revolution of values, revolution of association.
Well, thank you very much for coming in. It was an absolute pleasure. Looking forward to chatting with you again. Do you live in LA?
I do. We have a town hall coming up at the end of the month too. Every month we have town halls that are free to the public. We're doing one at UCLA at the end of October.
Maybe we could do one here at one point in time.
That'd be fun.
That'd be great, right? So I'll give you my information when we talk about that. Do you want to say anything specifically to the live feed? But maybe just come on down.
I would say the live feed.
He's going to talk directly to the live feed for a minute.
I would say to the audience that this is the beginning of what could be the end of a paradigm that has been increasingly inhumane, that has created the stratification we all abhor, that has justified the wars, justified the poverty, and all of these elements of normality which have really are just cloaked distortion. So I encourage everyone to support this movement and to continue their education and basically create the global awareness that's really required to develop the social change that's necessary. Thank you.
Nice.